Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of LegalBiz Cafe. I am your hostess with the mostest, attorney Shaune B. And tonight we are going to talk about how we're breaking down so that we can break through. How many of you feel like there's sort of a tourniquet on your head and someone's got a stick through it and they're turning it and they're turning it and they're turning it and it keeps getting tighter and tighter and tighter? Do you feel like your dreams are just not coming true? How do you go from a breakdown to a breakthrough? That's what we're talking about tonight on LegalBiz Cafe. Now let's talk about LegalBiz Cafe for just a moment. You know that I am your hostess with the mostest. I hope you also know by now I'm a business attorney. I'm also master certified in neuro-linguistic programming, so that means I have a little bit of a different point of view than a lot of attorneys do. I work with frustrated professionals, and I often find that there are emotional blockages that get in the way that way precede our being able to fix or build somebody's business. So here on LegalBiz Cafe, we are dealing with those issues that stop you as an entrepreneur, as a person out there in the world, that cause you to break down, and we are here to help you get your breakthrough. We also have Your Business Accelerated, which is my weekly business telecall, and on Your Business Accelerated, we deal with those hardcore business issues that stop you as an entrepreneur. And so you see, we're helping you on both sides of the coin. We are helping you resolve those hardcore business and legal issues, and here we're also helping you resolve the emotional issues that make things so difficult. So, you and I have talked about some ways to reach a breakthrough when you are breaking down. We talked about neuro-linguistic programming. And over a couple of weeks, I let you know about how we can alter your value system so that if you are trying to do something in your life and you're not valuing it on an emotional level, meaning on an unconscious level, then you can be telling yourself 12 ways to Sunday that you want to build a business. But if you don't believe that you can, then you're going to sabotage yourself every single time. So we talked about adjusting your value system. We also talked about using timeline therapy for negative emotions and for limiting decisions. And timeline therapy is a form of hypnosis where you visit your past and you undo the damage that was done, basically, and you can do it in an instant. That's the beauty of neuro-linguistic programming. You can literally undo decades of damage in an instant, and you don't have to do years and years and years of therapy. You can, of course, do years and years and years of therapy if you choose, and it's perfectly fine to do so. And indeed, some people have some very serious issues, and you must see a doctor if you have serious issues, if you need medication, etc., because neuro-linguistic programming and other techniques that we're going to talk about tonight are really techniques that you use when aspects of your life have gone awry, but you're able to function. If you're finding that you're not able to function, then I strongly suggest that you enlist the help of a professional. So beyond neuro-linguistic programming, how do you, and beyond spending years and years and years in the therapy chair, how do you end fear? How do you stop the limiting decisions and the limiting beliefs that can cause a breakdown? How do you get to that breakthrough? Well, here's a suggestion. I am in the process of reading Learned Optimism by Martin Seligman, And this is a recitation of a 26-year exhaustive study that he and his colleagues made on depression. It originally started with learned helplessness when they found that in testing rats, they had some control groups. One group, they allowed a rat to press a bar to stop the charge under its feet, electrical charge under its feet. In another box, they had animals that were left alone. And in a third box, they had rats that it didn't matter what they did. They could press the bar, they could do anything, they could jump, they could do anything they wanted to. Nothing they did would end the electric shock under their feet. And so those animals, that third group, learned to be helpless, so that when they moved the experiment forward and they put all of those animals through a new set of tests, this time putting that set of animals that learned to be helpless in a situation where they could help themselves by just jumping over a very low barrier to an area, to a different box where there was no electric charge under their feet. And those animals that actually learned helplessness just laid down. They didn't even attempt to get away from the electrical charge. They believed that no matter what they did, they would remain helpless. Well, Mr. Seligman and his colleagues realized along the way that learned helplessness has a lot of symptoms that look just like depression. And they went on to study depression, and they realized that depression really is, in a lot of ways, like learned helplessness. And so they sought to figure out what causes depression and how can we get out of it. And one thing that he found can really help you, so I want you to lean in right now and listen to me very carefully. What I really want you to get out of tonight's discussion is that the way you talk to yourself is everything. It's everything. If you encounter a situation where you fail and you tell yourself that it was bound to happen, that it was the other cosmic shoe dropping, that the universe hates you, that it's somebody else's fault, and life just sucks, and all of the terrible things that you can say to yourself, which actually remove the responsibility from you for moving yourself through that set of circumstances, then you have effectively made yourself helpless. And if you combine failure and your negative self-talk with something called rumination, then what you have is a recipe for disaster. And what Mr. Seligman said, ladies, is that women have a tendency to ruminate, to go over it again and again and again and again in our minds. And we want to analyze it and decide why this thing happened and figure out what we could have done differently. Well, if the answer is nothing, there's nothing we could have done differently, then by going over it again and again and again and again in our minds, what we are doing is driving ourselves into a pit. Now, Mr. Seligman says that men don't generally do that they tend to act where we tend to reflect. And in his opinion, this is why women experience major depressions more often than men do. That women, think about problems in ways that amplify depression, where men, on the other hand, just tend to act. So if you find yourself chewing your cud, so to speak, now I say that on purpose because if you think about the process of chewing cud, this is an animal, usually a cow, that will regurgitate partially digested food, which is seriously, not an appealing image, right? But think about what people are doing when they ruminate. What are they doing with their thoughts? They're regurgitating partially digested thoughts, and they're mixing it with a pessimistic, self-explanatory style. And what they have there is a recipe for severe depression. Now, folks, that actually ends the bad news. The good news is that there are things that we can do to end your pessimistic style and end rumination, so that when you have an event occur to you where you fail, it's not the end of the world. You can actually stop yourself. Let me tell you how I stopped myself the last time I found myself ruminating and pulling myself down into a pit. Well, and actually, it wasn't even me that did it. I was working with my energy coach, and she started asking me, well, isn't it a fact that you did something right? Well, I know it was small and inconsequential, but what was that thing that you did? And she had me sort of reflect on something that I did correctly, something that I did successfully. And she reminded me of something else. And then she reminded me of something else. And after a very few minutes, we actually changed the conversation from everything that was wrong, because remember, when you are in a depressed state, chances are you cannot feel where your life is right. You cannot see your blessings. You cannot talk yourself out of it while you're talking yourself into it. What I'm suggesting to you is that you need to make a very hard break in your thought processes, in your self-explanatory style. And instead of telling yourself all the reasons why it's natural that things went wrong, start telling yourself all the ways that you have the ability, that you have the skill set, that you have the DNA, that you have the attitude, you have everything that it takes to win and to bust out of that negative mindset, and start ruminating on your successes instead. And you may find that you will pop right out of that negative mindset, and that you might just set yourself up for a breakthrough. You know, Willie Jolly says that a setback is a setup for a comeback. And that's what I'm saying to you today, folks. I really want to thank you for joining me this week on LegalBiz Cafe, and I want you to join me again next week as we ruminate on another topic that is going to help you break through those things that are stopping you from starting, building, or fixing your business. Until next time, I'm attorney Shaune Arnold, reminding you to maximize your competence to get the confidence you need to succeed. We'll see you next week, friends. Bye-bye.